What's the story, Morning Glory? What's the word, Hummingbird? Thank you so much for clicking on my channel and for joining me for this review of Love After Lockup Season 4, Episode 4, Rule Breakers and Love Makers. So let's start off with Rick and Radine. So Radine's parents are hosting Thanksgiving dinner at their house, as we already know from the previous episode, and Rick is there, and then all of a sudden Ramona arrives, Rick's roommate, and I didn't understand why she would be there. I'm thinking, does she not have her own family to spend Thanksgiving with? Like, what's going on here? But maybe she doesn't. But it seemed very forced and very, like, obviously planned by the producers so that there can be some type of interaction or some type of scene between Ramona and Radine and Rick. So Ramona arrives, and also Kay, who is Radine's prison girlfriend and who is still currently incarcerated, she will also be joining them for Thanksgiving dinner via FaceTime. So at the table, they actually even have like a little spot for Radine to prop up the phone so that Kay can participate with the festivities. I think they even have a plate out for her, and at some point, Rick even fed her a deviled egg through the phone. So at that moment, if I was Rick, once they propped up the phone for Kay to participate with the Thanksgiving dinner from prison, I would have gotten up and left. I would have been like, okay, the writing's on the wall. I see what's going on here. Evidently, this Kay chick is so important to you that she has to be part of this Thanksgiving dinner. So, I'm going to bow out respectively. But he doesn't. But in his confessional, he does say that it was incredibly weird. And Rick, don't forget, it's also incredibly disrespectful. You think that you're in a monogamous relationship with this woman, but she's in a whole other relationship with another person, and she's like flaunting it in front of your face. She has her girlfriend on FaceTime so she can also be there, even though the girl's incarcerated. But it was important enough for Radine to make sure that Kay was there, and they're doing all of this right in front of you, and you don't see this as a problem. Moving on. So at some point, Rick steps away, I don't know, to go use the bathroom or what, I have no idea. But Ramona and Radine have a conversation. So Ramona tells Radine that Rick has done a lot to prepare for her release. And I think she also talks about how much Rick feels for Radine. And then Ramona learns also that Kay is actually Radine's girlfriend. And so Ramona's a little bit confused because she was under the impression that Radine and Rick were in a monogamous relationship. So the only thing that I can say about that is that Rick, when your prison girlfriend has a girlfriend, then you're just there to financially support them. There's no other reason why either one of these women would need you other than for you to financially to fund their lifestyle. So at some point, Rick comes back, and Radine says that Rick had found out a long time ago that I was gay. And then her father, Ray, says, "You're not gay, you're bisexual." And then Radine was like, "Whatever, same thing." And then Rick pipes in and says, "No, it's not." And then Radine was like, "Whatever, okay, whatever, I'm bisexual." So they talk about how her dad found out that she was bisexual, and there's this whole conversation about her sexuality at the Thanksgiving dinner table. And I'm like, wow, this conversation isn't uncomfortable and cringy for a Thanksgiving dinner. Then at some point, Ramona's like, she's had enough of all of this craziness, so she gets up and she leaves. And then soon after that, Radine and Rick leave. So then Rick wonders if Radine and Kay have just been using him to get $10,000 out of him. Rick, seriously, you spent $10,000 on Radine and she could not get her teeth fixed, not once. What the hell is she spending the $10,000 on? I mean, she couldn't get they don't have dentists in prison. And I'm not saying this because I've got the best teeth or I'm trying to look down on someone else who, no, she should have used that money to take care of her teeth. She should have used that money to take care of her teeth. I don't understand what she did with that $10,000 that he supposedly funded to her. And also, Rick, you got $10,000, but your blinds on on the window of your door are jacked up. Did y'all see those blinds? There was like gaping spaces in between I don't know what you call them. They were crooked and bent out of shape. Like, Rick, you got $10,000, but you can't take care of your girlfriend's teeth in your own house? Like, what the hell? So anyways, like I said, Radine and Rick, they eventually leave her parents' house as well. And then They're on their way back to his home. And Radine says that it's been 5 years since she's been with a man and that she's really excited to finally get to be with Rick. And I was kind of confused about that. I was like, I thought you really weren't feeling Rick. I thought you were more into Kay, but she was really excited about being with Rick. So they do the obligatory kicking the crew out so they can, do what it do alone in private. And then the next time that we see them is the next morning. They wake up together in bed, and it seems like they're both very satisfied with how the previous night went. There were no complaints on either side, which is also shocking because, girl, you said you were gay, but you really enjoyed your time with Rick. Okay, moving on. So Radine says that she feels more for Kay than she does with Rick. And in her confessional, she says that she was thinking about Kay while she was with Rick. So maybe that's why it was enjoyable, because she really wasn't even in the moment. She was, fantasizing about Kay. So they're driving back, I guess, to her father's house. I don't know where they're going, but they're driving on the road, and Radine does what she always does when she's alone with Rick. She, Kay's calling her, or she's calling Kay. I don't know who's calling who, but she's on the phone with Kay once again in front of Rick. And Rick probably thought that his lover boy skills is what would make her forget about Kay, and he probably was disappointed that she's still trying to talk to Kay, and she's still carrying on this relationship with Kay, because he probably thought that, after he laid it on her, she was going to completely, forget about Kay. But it was good, Rick, but it just wasn't that good. So Radine asks him point blank, how does it make you feel when I talk to her? And Rick says that it feels weird and it feels like a jab in the side. And then Radine says in her confessional that she didn't want to lose him, so she kept Kay away from Rick because she didn't want him to break up with her, so she never told him about Kay. Girl, just say what it is. He was giving you money. You didn't want the finances to stop. And that's the reason why you never told Rick about Kay, because he was giving you money. I don't know what you're talking about. You didn't want to lose him. You didn't want to lose his money, is more like it. And then Rick says in his confessional that he feels like he's been betrayed. Rick, if you feel betrayed, then we should never see another scene with you and Radine together ever again. Because you know the what's up now. It's plain as day. This girl practically brought her girlfriend to Thanksgiving dinner. It was important for her to be there. She's constantly talking to her on the phone whenever she's around you. I don't know what else you need. Do you want her to embarrass you and tell you to your face exactly what she thinks of you and what she really wants out of life? Is that what you really want? Do you really want to be embarrassed like that on television? Or do you just want to respectively bow out of the shenanigans and at least leave with some type of dignity and self-respect? But we'll see how that plays out. Moving on to Indy and Harry. So this scene starts off with Indy. She's in the kitchen. Obviously, she's in the home of Harry's sister, which I want to say her name is Lydia, but I'm not sure. So Indy's in the kitchen. She's washing dishes, and Coco is sitting at the table, having her lunch, breakfast. I'm not sure. Probably lunch. So Coco asks Indy, where is Puppy Daddy? And Indy says, I don't know, because when she dropped off Harry the night before at his homeboy's house, she never got the call to come pick him back up. He never came back home. Nothing. She didn't hear from him. So he didn't come home at all the night before. So then Indy says in her confessional that the probation officer told him he had to sleep every single night at his sister's house. Well, without an ankle bracelet, what's the incentive for him to do that if he doesn't have an ankle bracelet? Why would he do that? He wants to be out all hours of the night and day, having a good time with his homies. Why would he come home? So she says it's really frustrating that he's not following the rules, but he's a child. Well, like, what do you expect? You're dealing with a mischievous little boy, and he's not the man that you think he is. He's not the man that you're trying to make him out to be, to take on the responsibility of a wife and a child. I don't know what you think is going on here, Indy, but Harry is not he's not who you think he is. Why you cannot see what we see, I have no idea. So then Harry waltzes in like it's, just another day. And he's like, what's up, baby? And he wants to give her a kiss, and she pushes him away. And then they sit down on the couch, and she just starts lecturing him about doing right and staying out all night and all this and that. And then Harry's like, don't talk to me like I'm a child. He doesn't want to be talked to like he's a child, even though he acts every bit of a child. he doesn't want to be talked to as a child. And so Indy says, we're supposed to be married spiritually. Indy, please explain to those of us who are not as spiritually enlightened as you are, what does it mean to be married spiritually? Is that anything like a common law marriage? Like, what is that? Explain to us. Break that down for us. What does it mean to be spiritually married? And does he understand that he's spiritually married? So Harry says, you were cool when I was locked up, but then when I get out, you start bugging about every single thing that I do. Well, yeah, that's what girlfriends do, Harry. And then he goes, why are we still in this relationship if you never even began to forgive me? And I'm like, what? It seems like he was trying to give her an like a way out of the relationship. He was trying to, automatically, or he was trying to like plant seeds of doubt in her head so that she can kind of think about what he said and think to herself, oh, okay, maybe I shouldn't be in this relationship with him. That's what it seemed like to me, because it didn't make any sense. So he's trying to point out all the problems in the relationship and questioning why she would still want to be with him after all the stuff he's done. It seems like he's trying to give her a way out. And then he says, so you're just going to stay with me even though I effed you over and you never got an apology from me? What kind of conversation is this? If you don't want to be with the girl, Harry, just say so. Just say, I don't want to be with you. It's over. I'm done. Just anyway. So then he promises that he's going to do better. So he just talked about, he just created all this doubt about why she should be with him. But then he ends it all with, I'm going to do better. Moving on. So his family wants to do a do-over of his release date because it was really jacked up. On the day of his release, they planned this huge dinner. They cooked all day and all night for him. They waited for him to come home. But he was busy joyriding with Indy, dropping off food at the halfway house for his homies. So they never got that warm and fuzzy homecoming that they were expecting. So they're going to redo it all. So everybody's there, the mom, the sisters, Harry. Indy has been gracious enough to take the kids with her so he can spend alone time with his family. And he starts off by apologizing to his mom and his sisters for the do-over. For that initial release date. He apologizes about, not coming home, being out all night, so on and so forth. So Harry then says, so what do y'all think about Indy? And one sister says, I just want to eat my food. Like, she don't even want to talk about Indy. And then the mom says, it's not what we think about Indy, it's what you think about Indy. And Harry probably knows that his family has an issue with his relationship with Indy, and he wants to hear what they have to say about it because it will justify the doubts that he already has in his mind. So the main sister, the one whose house they're in, she says that she's invested way too much for them to not work out because she had to turn her whole house upside down. She had to rearrange her life to include these two grown people plus a child into her home, into her family, to make it comfortable for them. So she's like, I put way too much into this, so it better work out between the two of you. The other sister says in her confessional that she doesn't understand why Indy would want to be with someone who can't even provide. And she's saying this about her own brother. So she knows the what's up. So to her, it doesn't make any sense. This relationship doesn't make any sense. So then Harry says that, this was weird. He says, I went to prison a boy and came out slightly older. He didn't say, I went to prison a boy and came out a man. He says, I went to prison a boy and came out slightly older. Like, what does that mean? It was almost like he was trying to say, yeah, I went in really young, but when I came out, I didn't mature that much. I'm not that much of a man, when I was released, and I'm still, up to my old shenanigans. I really haven't learned much. As if to say, don't expect a lot out of me. Don't expect too much out of me because I'm a little bit older, but I'm not wiser. And I'm not any more mature than I was when I got in. Anyways, so Harry wants to talk to his mom alone. So they go into the bedroom to talk, and the mother asks, are you serious about this girl? And Harry says, yes. You're serious about her, but you stayed out all night without communicating with her. And then the mom says, well, don't you think she's rushing it? And all of a sudden, he starts talking about his childhood, his traumatic childhood. And I don't know if he was trying to say that he doesn't feel like Indy's rushing it because she's been there for him as opposed to his mom who wasn't there for him when he was younger. But I didn't understand how the conversation transitioned from him and Indy to his traumatic childhood, because he completely unloads on his mother, and he tells his mother how, him and his siblings suffered at the hands of their abusive stepfather. He says that the mother was not there for them, and the mother said, well, I was working 12-hour shifts, to keep a roof over our heads. And so he was like, okay, mom, I understand, but we still went through whatever we went through with our stepdad. And then he points out to a scar on his forehead, and he says, remember when I told you that I got this scar when I was playing or whatever? Well, your husband did this to me, because he was very abusive. And so the mother starts crying, and she feels really horrible, and he tells his mother that, I forgive you, because I will always forgive you, because you're my mom. But he really needed her to know what was really going on when he was a kid. So I'm not sure how that is related to the conversation about Indy. I'm guessing maybe he feels like, I felt like I was abandoned by you, so I'm with this woman because she doesn't make me feel abandoned. She's right there by my side. I don't know if that's what the point that he was trying to make. But regardless, if it is, if it wasn't, I don't know. He needed to tell his mom what was going on in his childhood, and he felt a lot better after he unloaded all of this on her. And he said that he needed to get this out in order for him to be able to move on. And so they forgave each other, they cried it out, they hugged, and it was a really touching moment. So the next scene that we have is when Indy and Harry and little Coco, they're in the car driving down the highway, and I think they were trying to go to the dentist because he needs to get some work done on his teeth. Radine, are you taking notes? And also, Indy puts in there out of nowhere, she mentions, yeah, and then after that, we're going to go see a psychic. And he was like, excuse me, what? And she's like, yeah, we're going to go see a psychic. And Harry's like, you know what? I don't want to disrespect your beliefs, but, that psychic stuff is just not for me. And he talks about why he thinks it's fake and so on and so forth. So as they're driving down the highway, there's a cop right behind them. And Harry gets this feeling that they're going to get pulled over. And that's exactly what happened. They got pulled over. So the cop is like questioning, why is an unlicensed driver driving the car? And he says that his girlfriend, I don't know what he referred to her as, I think he said his girlfriend, was really tired, and so he decided to take over the driving because she was really tired. And the cop was like, okay, whatever, but you still don't have a license. I'm just trying to understand. He just got out of prison. His license is suspended. These two knuckleheads couldn't figure out that it would have been a better idea for Indy to drive than for him. And Indy, you have your kid there in the car with you. You thought it was a great idea to have him drive with no license, just out of jail, with his hot temper. It was a better idea for him to drive than for you. Y'all stupid. So the cop just ends up giving him a ticket, and then Indy says something like, well, I knew that I should have been the one driving. And Harry's like, well, you would have been stopped too because you have out-of-state tags. What? Anyways, I'm not even going to spend too much time on this stupid scene. He got a ticket because he was driving when she should have been the one driving all along. Now, the only thing that made sense here is when Harry was like, he says, I know enough that when you're in front of a cop to not act panicky and to do exactly as you're told, because you can lose your life over a traffic stop. And that's the smartest thing this man has ever said. And then he also had mentioned that he said that he felt less free in the outside than he did on the inside, because in the outside world, he says he feels like he's constantly being watched. So he feels less free on the outside than he did on the inside. Moving on to Kayla and Martell. So Kayla meets with Deidre, which is Martell's mom. They meet for dinner, lunch, whatever. And Martell at this time has been in the halfway house for about a week. So Kayla says in her confessional that ever since Martell has been locked up, the mom and her have been working together as a team, holding it down for him. So then Deidre says in her confessional that the 13 years her son spent in prison, she says it felt like they were serving every bit of those 13 years. It was a long and hard process waiting for him to come out. And the mother says that she will make sure, if that's the last thing she does on earth, she will make sure that he never goes back to prison again. So Kayla talks to us about how she had lost her dad to cancer 6 years ago, and then she recently just lost her mom. And she said that her mother's death hit a whole lot harder than her father's death, and she's still like in the grieving process for that. So Kayla has brothers who don't know anything about her relationship with Martell. So that's going to be interesting when they do find out. Kayla asks the mother if Martell has been in communication with any other women or if there's any other women in his life. The mother is like, well, and then we quickly go to Deidre's confessional, and she says that once Martell is out of the halfway house, he may go out there to see what he knows. I guess to go see or meet with people that are familiar to him. I don't know what she meant by that. And then she says that there have been ex-girlfriends approaching him. She says it is what it is. And she says that as far as him being faithful to Kayla, she really cannot say, and she's really not sure if he's been faithful to Kayla. But she definitely tells us that there are other females out there and that Martell does plan on seeing them. And women have been approaching him. Women in his life or whatever, in his past life, his pre-prison life, they have been approaching him or trying to get in contact with him. So she really doesn't know what her son's going to do. But she tells Deidre that, oh, he told me he loves you. So I wouldn't think that you have anything to worry about. And I'm like, Mom, why are you going to go tell this woman a bull-faced lie? This woman is really concerned about her relationship with this man, even though she's been having some extracurricular on the side herself. But she's really worried about how this relationship is going to go because she's been waiting for this man for 13 years. And so she wants to know the what's up. And so she comes to the mom for some, intel. And the mom basically tells her a bull-faced lie. Now, Mom, I understand you don't want to put your son's business out there and you want to, be loyal to your son and keep his secrets. But you don't have to gas her up like that. Like, girl, you ain't got nothing to worry about. No, you don't have to say that. You could have just be like, you know what? I don't really want to get involved in y'all's relationship. I know anything less than he's been faithful is going to be construed as he must be cheating. I understand that. But you don't want to lay it on so thick. Like, girl, you ain't got nothing to worry about. He loves you. He told me he loves you. Just say he loves you. Or, I don't want to get involved with y'all's business, so that's something you're going to have to ask him or something. But don't, gas her up. So she's on her way now. What's her name? Kayla. She's on her way to go pick up Marta from the halfway house. I think he has a 2-day furlough. So she's really excited because he's going to finally see her apartment and they're going to have 2 whole days together. So Martell says in his confessional that he really appreciates Kayla sticking by his side when he was given a 25-year sentence. So his sentence was initially 25 years. And he said that he's happy to say that she's mine. Okay, that's what he said. So they arrive at her apartment. Her apartment is super cute, and she says that she considers it their home. They're home together. And so she gives him a tour, and then when they go into the kitchen, he sees a couple of specks of something on the stove, and then he gets on her for being dirty. He was like, well, you could have cleaned that up before you left the house. Then they walk past the laundry room, and then he says something about how she should have folded up the clothes before he got there. And so then they start arguing in the bedroom about that, because she's like, what's wrong with you? Why are you trying to call me out like this? And so they're arguing back and forth, and then he gets upset. He walks out and he leaves. He goes outside, and then he's on the phone. He's calling someone to come pick him up. So obviously he began this fight inside the apartment on purpose so that he can have an excuse to leave and go see his other chick. And he didn't even want to do what it do with her before leaving, because he wanted to save all his energy for his other boo thing that he's about to go see. It's so predictable. It's so obvious, and it's so lame and stupid. I don't know why he even told her that he had this 2-day furlough, because if you really planned on being with someone else, why didn't you just call that person to begin with and have them pick you up from the halfway house? And I didn't even tell Kayla that you had a 2-day furlough, but you have her come pick you up, bring her back to your apartment, then you start nitpicking at things just to create an argument, just so you can justify why you're storming out. And then when she told him, because I guess as he was leaving, as he was walking out of the door, when she was like, okay, bye, She should never have come out, but she ended up coming outside and she wanted to talk to him about their argument. And he wasn't trying to hear that because he's trying to go see his other chick. So I was like, Kayla, you should have just stayed inside. For you to come out and try to talk to him about the argument or whatever, that was just so stupid. You should have just kept yourself inside your apartment, let him do whatever the hell he wants to do, let him get picked up by whoever, go wherever to do whatever. That's fine. You should have just stayed in the apartment because you coming out to talk to him makes it seem like you cared about this situation way more than he did. I don't know what else to say. I mean, you just got out of prison, Martell, and this woman she's been waiting on you for 13 years. I don't know. Maybe he's got about 10 other women that have been waiting for him for 13 years. And so he's got to give all of them his attention because they've all been holding it down for him. They've all been putting money on his books. And so he just came out and he probably has these other women like, hey, you just got out. When am I going to see you? You've been out 2 days now. What's up? I thought we were going to meet up. So he has very little time and too much to do in a very short amount of time. So he's got to go take care of business. I don't know what else to say about this, but he made her look like a whole entire idiot out there. Moving on to Taylor and Chance. So Chance called Taylor a hillbilly because she puts her cups in a drawer. That's how this scene started off. Taylor says in her confessional that things have not been going that great between Rocky and Chance. And Rocky stays in her room most of the time and she won't even leave her room. So they start arguing about pizza, y'all. They ordered pizza and she really wasn't eating it, I guess. And so he got mad at her because she wasn't eating the pizza. And so she was like, I'm just not that hungry right now. And then he was like, well, why did you even order the pizza if you're not hungry? He gets really, really cranky. And he's like cussing and talking to her crazy in front of her children. And then in his confessional, he says, at the end of the day, it's my life too. And I'm going to say what I want, when I want, and I don't care who's around. So basically, he's going to talk crazy in front of the kids and he doesn't really give a damn. Rocky comes out to see what the hell is going on. So her and her sister Taylor, they start talking, and Taylor says that she just wanted everything to be perfect. How? How are things going to be perfect when this man that you've never met before the day he was released, you've never met him as far as like in person, spent time with him in person, you think that you really know him because you carried on a relationship with him behind bars. How did you think this was going to be perfect, Taylor? How? So Chan says that he flipped out on Taylor for no reason because he was really upset about his license being suspended and not being able to work. That's what was really agitating him. So they're in bed cuddling and you think that everything has been worked out, but she asks him to see his documents because he came home with all of his important documents and she wanted to see them. And so amongst all the documents is like some notebook paper and all of these handwritten phone numbers and names. So she looks at it and she counts that there are 38 female names and phone numbers on this paper. And he tries to tell her that these are his 38 female cousins. And he kept in touch with every single one of them while he was away. She gets upset about that. She's like, I don't know why you're keeping their phone numbers. And I don't know if she was also upset that he was talking to other females while he's in prison. But this paper with these women's names and phone numbers ended up being like a point of contention between them. And so then Chance says that he could have picked, a more financially stable woman who didn't have a whole bunch of bills to pay, who didn't have any children, who was more educated and had a better career than Taylor. He could have picked that because that's the kind of woman that's looking for a guy like him. Educated, career-minded, financially stable. These are the women that are looking for ex-cons to date, right? Okay. So he says he could have picked a woman like that because they were out there for the picking, but he chose to be with Taylor. So that must show her that he is really invested in this relationship with her, and she needs to just shut up about it and not complain. Chan starts accusing her of talking to other men and questioning why she's doubting him. So they do the whole Jedi mind trick, right? When they point out your flaws or your faults, you want to turn around and hurry up, point out their flaws and their faults. So he mentions the pictures of her ex-fiance that are all over the house. And he's like, why do you have his pictures up? How am I supposed to feel that you have pictures of your ex-fiance up? And she tries to tell him it's not really for me, it's for the children, because that's their dad, because he is the father of her two oldest daughters. So she's like, this is their dad, and I need to keep his memory alive for them. And he was like, well, the pictures are not even in their room. The pictures are out in the living room, as if this man really means something to you. And this man probably does mean a lot to him. I mean, a lot to her. But what do you think is going to happen, Chance? Do you think she's going to jump in the grave and have an affair with him? What do you think is going to happen? She just has pictures of her dead fiance in her home because she probably still cares for this man, and he's the father of her kids. Now, should she move them out of the way? Maybe she could keep one picture. If it's like a family picture, keep one, and then any other pictures of him, I think she should move them into her daughter's room. But I don't see why he would get butthurt about her having these. Like, what do you think is going to happen? She's going to have a seance and, reconnect with his spirit, and they're going to run off into the sunset together. Like, I don't understand why you're upset about this. But he wants the pictures taken down. Moving on to Kevin and Tiffany and Curtis. So Kevin's mother, Darla, comes over, and I guess to watch his cat or something. I don't know why she came over. She came over, and maybe he has a dog. So she comes over, and she does not want Kevin to go pick up Tiffany, because he told his mom that Tiffany's been acting really strange, and he doesn't understand where this is coming from. And Tiffany told him not to come pick her up, but he's still going to do it. So the mom is like, I don't think it's a good idea for you to do this, but Kevin's going to do what Kevin wants to do. Curtis is also getting ready to go pick up Tiffany, because Tiffany does want Curtis to come pick her up. And he's going to take a cold waffle to her because I guess she really wanted it. So both men pull up at the halfway house at the same time. Kevin automatically recognizes Curtis because he says that he had ran into him before in the city. So he's familiar with who Curtis is. Tiffany comes out and she walks right past Kevin. Barely acknowledged him because he did say hi to her. And she was like, I think he said, "What's up, shorty?" And she just kind of looked at him and was like, "Hey," and just kept right on walking. And she went straight to Curtis's truck and she started loading up Curtis's truck. So she's going back and forth getting her stuff, and Curtis is helping her packing her stuff. And, Kevin is talking smack to Curtis. And you know how men are, they're not going to let it go. Instead of just getting in the truck and driving away, he decides to come out of the truck and face Kevin face to face. And so they're like, talking smack to each other. And Tiffany tells the producers, this is the reason why I didn't want Kevin to show up, because of this right here. So they're talking smack to each other. And next thing you know, Kevin knocks him out. Just cold knocks him out. And Curtis fell to the ground like a mannequin. And I'm just like, what is happening here? Why is this what is going on here? And that's where that scene ends. And we don't know what happened after that. But I'm just like, this is so stupid. First of all, why do men do this? When they square off or when they face off, why does one lean over or lean close to the other guy, daring the other guy to punch him? Why do you want somebody to punch you in the face? But that's exactly what Kevin did. He punched him in the face and he cold knocked him out. And then I thought to myself, well, maybe the whole reason why Tiffany wanted Curtis to pick her up was because Curtis has the pickup truck. So he's got the room for her to pack her stuff. It's got nothing to do with feelings or emotions or she likes one more than the other. It was just a matter of convenience for her. And she wanted to pack as much stuff as possible because he had the bigger car and he had more space than Kevin's little sports car. So maybe it was just about space. She just needed something with more room to pack more stuff in. I don't know. But that's where that episode ended. Thank you so much for joining me. If you made it this far, I really do appreciate it. Go ahead and rate the video, subscribe, and I will definitely talk to you later.